There's a weighty matter that I must share with you, one that I've carried for quite some time. It is of immense importance, not just for me, but for us. This is about last night, a pivotal moment in my life, and potentially ours as well. What transpired has been a long time coming. For weeks, months even, I felt the tension mounting. It was subtle at first, something I thought I could ignore, something I thought would eventually fade away if I simply left it alone. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. The truth is, I've been pushing this to the back of my mind for far too long. It lingered there like an unwelcome guest, refusing to leave, quietly demanding my attention. I tried to pretend it didn't bother me as much as it did. I told myself I could manage it, that it wasn't worth stirring up trouble over. But you and I both know that pretending something doesn't exist doesn't make it go away. In fact, it only gives it more power over you. I reached a breaking point where I realized I couldn't ignore it any longer. Ignorance wasn't peace, it was avoidance. And avoidance wasn't going to protect us or what we share. What I felt, what I knew, was that if I didn't address this situation now, it would only grow larger, casting an even darker shadow over the beautiful connection we've worked so hard to nurture. After much reflection and countless sleepless nights, I finally decided to confront the issue head on. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but it was also one of the clearest. The third party involved in this situation, a person whose presence has been a source of unnecessary tension and conflict, needed to hear my truth. This wasn't a confrontation born out of anger or bitterness, but rather one driven by love, respect, and an unwavering commitment to what we have. As I prepared for this confrontation, I knew it wouldn't be easy. There's always a part of me that hesitates when it comes to difficult conversations. I worry about how my words will be received, how the other person might feel, and whether I'll be able to express myself fully and authentically. But this time, the stakes were too high for hesitation. This time, I knew I had to be direct, clear, and unwavering. The moment arrived sooner than I anticipated. There was no time for rehearsals or second guessing. I found myself standing face to face with them, the person whose actions and behavior had been quietly chipping away at our peace. I felt a strange mix of emotions, nervousness, determination, and an unexpected sense of calm. I looked them in the eye, and with every ounce of strength I could muster, I began to speak. I started with a simple but profound question. When will you accept that it's over? These words weren't just a question. They were a statement, a declaration of finality. I needed them to understand, without any ambiguity, that their role in our lives had come to an end. As I spoke, I felt a surge of clarity that I hadn't experienced before. The words flowed from me with a certainty I didn't know I possessed. I told them that their interference in my life, in our life, was no longer acceptable. I explained how much my relationship with you means to me, how it's the most sacred and cherished part of my life. I told them, in no uncertain terms, that I wouldn't allow anyone to come between us. I went on to describe the toll their actions had taken not just on me, but on the harmony and stability we've worked so hard to build. I explained that their behavior, whether intentional or not, was a boundary I could no longer tolerate being crossed. I spoke with conviction, with love for you in every word. This wasn't about anger or resentment, it was about protecting what matters most to me. Their reaction was not what I expected. For a moment, they looked utterly stunned, as if they couldn't believe the strength and resolve in my voice. There was a flicker of disbelief in their eyes, followed by what I can only describe as a moment of realization. They seemed to understand, perhaps for the first time, that I was serious, that this wasn't just a fleeting emotional outburst, but a firmly drawn line in the sand. I continued, making sure there was no room for misinterpretation. I told them that this wasn't just about drawing boundaries. It was about reclaiming our peace and ensuring that the love we share isn't overshadowed by unnecessary conflict. I explained that I wasn't doing this out of malice, but out of necessity. I needed them to understand that their time in our lives had reached its natural conclusion and that it was time for them to let go and move on. As I spoke, I felt a wave of emotions washing over me: relief, empowerment, and surprisingly compassion. Despite the difficulty of the conversation, I realized that this was as much about setting them free as it was about protecting us. By holding on, they were not only harming us, but also themselves. And by confronting this head on, I was giving all of us a chance to move forward. What happened next took me by complete surprise. They didn't argue or lash out as I had feared they might. Instead, they seemed to absorb my words, their expressions softening as the weight of what I was saying began to sink in. For a brief moment, there was silence, a silence that felt heavy but necessary. It was as if the air between us had shifted, clearing the way for a new beginning. Their response, when it finally came, was one of quiet acknowledgement. They nodded slowly, their eyes reflecting a mixture of resignation and understanding. It was clear to me that they hadn't expected this level of resolve from me. Perhaps they had underestimated my commitment to you, to us, and to the life we're building together. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of closure. I knew that I had done the right thing, not just for us, but for everyone involved. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about creating the space and freedom we need to thrive. As I reflect on this experience, I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for you. It's because of the love we share that I found the strength to take this step. You are my anchor, my guiding light, and the reason I am willing to face even the most difficult challenges head on. Moving forward, I believe this moment will mark a turning point for us. The peace and harmony we've been seeking are finally within reach. With this chapter behind us, we can focus on the future, a future filled with love, joy, and the unshakable bond we've built together. I want you to know that everything I did for us. My love for you is unwavering, and my commitment to our relationship is absolute. Together, we can face anything that comes our way, knowing that we have each other to lean on. Thank you for being my partner, my confidant, and my greatest source of strength. I love you more than words can express, and I am so grateful to have you by my side as we embark on this next chapter of our journey together. With all my love, your name.